Hola, ¿cómo está? I am here to talk today about finding volume, and everyone is always a fan of volume after we've done surface area because the formulas are so much shorter. So, Takeru Kobayashi is a competitive eater and holds many world records for eating. One of them is that he ate 13 grilled cheese sandwiches in 1 minute. If you look this person up online, you'll also see that they are competitive in the 4th of July hot dog eating contest on Coney Island. If each sandwich is 4.5 by 5 by 0.75 inches, what is the volume of food that Kobayashi eats in 1 minute? So, a stack of 13 grilled cheese sandwiches would be very similar to a right prism, a rectangular prism that is upright or at a 90-degree angle. A prism is a polyhedron. It has two faces, the bases that are congruent and parallel. So in this case, we would probably say the top and the bottom, especially when we think about it being a sandwich, because the shape of the sandwich bread on top would match the shape of the sandwich bread on the bottom. The other faces are at least parallelograms, but anytime we're talking about one that is right, then they are rectangles. If we started to sort of slip or tip this to the side, it would still be a prism, but it would have parallelogram faces instead of rectangular. The formula for finding volume of a prism is area of the base times the height. So area of the base, capital B, meaning the area of, in this case, the top or the bottom, the bread, and capital H, the height of the prism, the distance from top to bottom. So if we look back at our color coding we were using before, we would do the perimeter of the base, and we would do the area of the base, and we would do the height of the prism. Well, you will notice for volume, we don't need perimeter of the base. We only need area of the base and height, which, simplifies things a little bit. What's the volume of the stack of sandwiches? So volume is area of the base times the height. Because this is rectangular, it would be length times width times the height. And in this case, the length and width of the bread are 4.5 by 5. Now, what's H, capital H? That is your height of the stack of sandwiches. So in this case, it would be 13 sandwiches times 0.75 per sandwich. So the height would be 9.75. Overall volume is going to be 219.375 inches cubed. So notice I first of all went off the screen. So length times the width, the 4.5 times the 5, that was the dimension of the bread. And then our height of the prism had to be 13 sandwiches times 0.75 inches each. If I just do this is a string of multiplication, right? So it doesn't have to be done in any particular order. It can all be done at once. 219.375 cubic inches. So I have a line of substitution, and then I have my answer. Now, if you want to skip V equals BH, you would still have to have V equals L times W times H. If you want to skip the second one, then when you do your substitution, you'd have all three parts shown. Technically, you could get this down to 3 lines instead of 4, but this would be sort of the minimum. All right, next we have a triangular prism. And volume of a triangular prism is going to work the same way. We need the base. So the base is a triangle. So if you think about our color coding before, area of the base, it would be yellow. If you still want to put the green in there, there's nothing wrong with still putting the green in there. I think it helps sometimes with the overall look of a shape if it's not upright. And then your height has to go from the triangle in the front to the triangle in the back. So that 20 inches is your height, even though it's not up and down. So volume for a triangular prism is still area of the base times the height. For a triangle, I pronounced that funny. For a triangle, 1/2 times B times H, and then times the overall height of the prism. So volume is going to be 1/2 times 16 times 14. Remember, the 16 and the 14 make a right angle. They're your base and your height on the triangle, the two-dimensional face there. And then times the overall height of the prism, which is the 20. The 1/2 times 16 times 14 gives you 112 times the height of the prism, 20, and the volume is going to be 2,240 inches cubed. Again, that's pretty much the minimum for the amount of work you'd need to show. You could either do the first or the second line here. You don't necessarily have to have them both. You do have to have your line of substitution, and then I did all of the multiplication that was in the parentheses first for my capital B, so I still showed my area of the base times the height numbers. All right. Jamie McDonald ate 5 dozen Krispy Kreme donuts in 9 minutes, 17.28 seconds. Assume, guys, just a second, right? 5 dozen Krispy Kreme donuts. So if we can just take a moment to appreciate that is 60 donuts. Oh my gosh. Assume that each donut is a cylinder and assume that it has no hole. With a diameter of 3.5 inches and 0.5 inches thick, what's the volume of food that he ate? So we're not going to use diameter, we're going to use radius, 1.75, right? Because the the formulas that we have for both volume and surface area do not use diameter. And that each individual one is 0.5 inches thick. So that means we need to do 60 donuts times 0.5 inches to get 30 inches for your overall height. So when we're going to do the donut stacked, it's going to look similar to a cylinder. So we're still using volume equals area of the base times the height. It's just in this case, with the area of the base being a circle, it's going to be pi r squared times the height of the stack. So you can start with either one. Most people start with pi r squared h. Pi r squared being the area of the circular base times the overall height. So when we look at our cylinder here, your overall height goes from one circle to the other circle, your bases being the circles. So I have to substitute 3.14. So I'm going to go to approximately because 3.14 isn't exactly pi. The radius was 1.75 and it is squared. And then times the overall height of the stack of donuts, which is 30 inches. So the 3.14 times the 1.75 squared is going to become 3.14 times 3.0625. Leave that on your calculator screen if you're typing it out. And then the three numbers can all be multiplied in one string. So leave this large number on your screen and then you can type in times 3.14 times 30, leaving you with a volume of approximately 288.4875 inches cubed. So who ate the greater volume of food? We have 60 donuts at 288 cubic inches, and then we have the grilled cheese sandwiches at 219. So it turns out, both are disgusting and overwhelming to think of, but it turns out the McDonald's, no relation to the McDonald's food franchise, ate more. He ate approximately 288 cubic inches versus the approximately 219 cubic inches. So he definitely ate more. I don't know, both would give me a stomachache. Can you find the exact volume of a cylinder, leaving your answer in terms of pi? Find the exact volume of a cylinder with radius 5 and height 3. So if we want to have an exact volume, we just do not substitute 3.14. So when we go to do this, we leave our equal sign, we leave the pi symbol, we do the radius squared, which is 5 squared, and then we have to remember to multiply by the height. So we'd remember to multiply by 3. And we do everything except multiplying by a value for pi. So we would do the 5 squared, which is 25. And we would do the 25 times 3, which is 75. And we would leave the volume as 75 pi inches, or in this case, centimeters cubed. So 75 pi, and you would read it that way too. You would say the volume is, and this is exact, 75 pi centimeters cubed. So we then have an exact number to hand over to someone else. So if you were working for NASA, if you were working for an engineering company, you would hand your answers in terms of pi, meaning that the pi symbol would still be in your answer so that the next person had an exact number to work with instead of something that had been rounded or was approximate. Find the missing dimension of the figures below. Show the work algebraically with the correct formulas. So we're going to start with volume equals area of the base times the height. We know that the volume is 240. So on the left side of the equal sign, we're going to substitute our 240. Area of the base, it's a rectangle, so 5 times 6, and then times the height, which we don't know. So we would simplify anything we can. 5 times 6 is 30, times the x, which is representing the height, divide both sides by 30, and we would find that 8 centimeters is the value of x, or the height. Cylinder takes a little bit more just because of pi. So the volume is pi r squared h. The volume we know is 163.28. We are going to use 3.14, so we put in our approximately symbol. The thing we don't know is the radius, so we leave radius squared, and then we do times the height 13. We can simplify on the right-hand side the 13 times the 3.14, and we would get 40.82, but we still don't know r. So we still have the r squared. We haven't done anything with that yet. We divide both sides by 40.82, and we're going to get 4 equals r squared. Now, some people want to think that they're done. The problem there is we don't want to know r squared. We want to know the missing dimension, which in this picture is x, or the radius. So we would square root both sides and get that 2 equals r, or in this case, we can say x equals 2 millimeters. And that's really how this is going to go. Do I have the volume and I'm looking for a missing dimension, like these two cases, or do I have all of the information about the shape and I'm looking for the volume?